Joey, welcome to the show, CEO and co-founder of Sylvain. I had the pleasure of sitting on a very obscure panel with you. We did a panel like 12 years ago, iHeartRadio, and I interviewed the SVP of marketing at Rocket recently, and he said the brief should pick a fight. And I just love that way of articulating like what the brief should be. And he was a Crispin guy from like back in the glory days.
Conflict, I think, is a good thing if you're sort of operating in it from a place of respect and kindness. Like, I think people run away from it for the wrong reasons.
Conflict.
I'm Joey Camire, CEO, part of the founding team at Sylvain, a strategy and design firm we started about 15 years ago. We have offices in New York, sort of our headquarters, but then Amsterdam, Richmond, Virginia, and Los Angeles. We are 70-something people. I went to school for neuroscience because I didn't know what one does. They're supposed to do professionally, and I
guess that means you're smart, right?
I guess, or foolish, like naive. I just had no frame of reference for college or what you could do as a professional, and so I went into neuroscience because I was good at it. Like, stumbled into a class. I was like, oh, this makes sense. I can do this. Like, is that what you do?
Slicing open brains, or what's going on in the neuroscience?
Rat brains.
Class.
Rat brains. Yeah.
Interesting. Tiny little brains.
Yeah, tiny little brains with a vibratome, like a super fast vibrating razor that you're sliding a rat brain across into tiny slices and then doing all of that stuff. And I met Ben and Alen when I was in grad school, where I'd taken a real hard pivot. I like left the lab one day and went to career services and was like, what else you got? Like, I tried to crack a joke with these dudes that I've been working with, these like graduate students for like a year and a half. And it just just, they did not get that I was just being playful. And I was like, I just left and I was like, what else? And then they were like, you could go into like advertising, I guess. So I went that route. And then when we came out of school, I realized like I wanted to be further upstream. Ben and I did, and we met with Alen. He's like, I'm thinking about starting something. You guys want to do it together? I was like, great. Like, let's go.
You were pretty fresh at that point. I mean, I scoped your LinkedIn and it was like you had a year somewhere.
Like 25. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Very
just
cool.
Turned 25 too. Yeah. The hubris, like I always joke, it's the sort of the hubris and the humility, I think, was like we had the right mix of that when we started the company. Like, the hubris to think that we could figure anything out, and the humility to admit when we didn't know how to do it yet. And so like that, I think that balance, when we were starting the company, there wasn't, I mean, there were other companies that I think existed to varying degrees of similarity to what we do, but there wasn't really a model, and we wanted to move upstream and take those skills that you sort of deploy as a strategist of understanding the market and understanding consumers and a company and political dynamics in a company and human behavior and culture and make decisions.
I can't just let you say political dynamics and not be triggered by that word. Because
I was thinking inside of a company, but also fair
interesting
enough.
Yeah, right. Yeah, interesting.
But like, we were like, by the time decisions got to us in the sort of advertising roles we were in, so much had already been determined. They would say like, figure out a way to like improve sales X amount of percentage points, and you're like, well, actually, there's a thing in how you're talking about the product, or like, could you make this adjustment to a feature? That's what people are saying. And they're like, someone's like, not my job, not my problem. But my bonus structure is based on the return on investment of this campaign. Like, just give me my ads and shut up. And so we just wanted to have more impact, and we attempted to move upstream in whatever that looked like,
Sure. But you've done pretty well. I mean, give me some highlights. I know there's been some really high profile work you've done for, I don't know what you can talk about publicly, and I can always just cut it out if you don't want me to include it. But like, there's some pretty high profile work for Netflix, I know. So give me just throw out a few of the highlights so people know how.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 15 years, so it's like that Chevrolet Manchester United stuff we did early on. We launched Bud Light Platinum early on, which was like the most successful domestic beer launch of this century.
And your role included the like identification of like creating that new product.
Yeah, we worked with the innovation team and then with the marketing team to just it was like very fluid. It's hard to say like what we did and what they did. We were really embedded with the team of figuring out what's the opportunity, who are you going to talk to, what's the
What are
angle,
consumers looking for in a BN, right?
yeah, and it was enlightening for us because we got to sit in with like brewers, right? Like that product was sweeter because it was supposed to be for the like high energy nighttime occasion, like on premise at a bar or whatever, and people wanted a sweeter profile, and that's where beer was losing. And then we were like, there was this conversation where everyone's like talking to the brewer, and they're like, we make Anheuser-Busch at the time consumed 90% of domestically grown rice. Uh, and and so they could make sake. And if you, instead of doing like an ice beer where you're just taking water out from hops and malt that isn't supposed to, it's supposed to be clean. Like Budweiser is supposed to be a clean taste, not like a potent taste. And so it would taste terrible if you did the malt version. But if you add like some sake, it sweetens it a little bit, elevates the alcohol content, and then that's one part of it. But we did the first brand strategy work for BlackRock, and it sort of led to, again, not taking credit. We're sort of embedded with teams and just get to participate, but like a big shift in the letters to the CEOs that started going out around purpose and environmental impact. We worked with Chobani to launch basically a lot of their product like Flip and the Chobani store back in the early teens. We relaunched the WNBA brand and identity a couple years ago, and that has been super successful. We work with New York Times at figuring out sort of how uh, to shift their orientation around their brand and bundling and integrating all of the acquisitions that they made. I
They've
mean,
been doing
we're
a
we're a
great
little
job with
bit
that too.
all
As
over
a
the map.
subscriber, I will say that they've been doing a great job with like integrating even into the app. Like I often
Yeah.
play that like spelling bee in the app now.
Yeah, the team, I mean, I didn't personally touch it. The team did an incredible job, and the clients over there are like so sophisticated, right? That journalistic integrity and mindset of that organization is just so strong
They have a pretty good
that,
podcast too.
yeah, they have a
Their pod
couple.
game is very strong, I will say.
They're doing all right, those
Yes.
people at the New York Times.
I didn't even
Um,
know until recently. And it's not that I didn't know, it didn't click, but Times Square is called Times Square because of the New York Times. Yeah, tell us about the decision to do the open letter and the context that sits within,
uh
which is the impact report.
we got our B
The
Corp
fun's over. It's time to talk
yeah,
about serious stuff.
yeah. Let's get into it. No, I mean we got our B Corp certification in, I think it was 2017, and we were one of the first professional service, like I think maybe the second or third professional service company that got it, which was challenging because a big part of the audit is around sort of like production things, right? Like so we're sort of losing a whole area to be able to be scored on. We got the B Corp certification. And, we had started the company saying like, we want to be out there. We want to prove that we can have an impact. And we had a project really early on um, where we solved this problem, and it never became anything. We were still, we started the company in 2010. There were still the waves of the recession, like had not all sort of the housing crisis recession hadn't all gone away. And so we got this thing approved, and everyone was pumped about it. And the CFO put a spending freeze and for the rest of the year, and it never got produced. There was this realization like, oh, if we have our values in a problem and in how we solve a problem, and as long as we resolve like the business issue, we can actually like have a positive impact. It was that particular challenge was just around like orienting positive child development into the way in which like a retail store was helping parents through purchasing things for their kids and whatever. And it was like super fun and vibrant and exciting. But it, like, even though the work didn't happen, it was just this like click moment. And over the following years, we sort of continued to refine it and just say like, we want you to feel like, to our team, that you can bring your values as a human to the work. As long as you're solving the problem, you can have that kind of positive impact in the world. Like, you should always be trying to like leave something better than you found it. And so sometimes that was like, with Chobani, it was about like helping guide people to like healthier options in food. With, I'm trying to think of like things that we were working on at the time. But regardless, like, the point was, oh, we can show up. And so we, as part of
Our
getting the
voice
B Corp,
matters too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And as part of and that you can feel good about the work that you're doing, like, that you don't have to sort of like, you can sleep at night. You don't feel like you're sacrificing some part of who you are. And as part of getting the B Corp certification, we sort of formalized our mission in that moment, that had been moving in that direction to sort of leverage the might of corporations for the greatest good. Um, and in, I think our first impact report was maybe in 2021, where we had seen other B Corps do this thing of implementing an impact report, and a lot of it had to do with sustainability and social responsibility and things like that. And because we weren't producing hard goods, it felt like it was a harder thing to track for us. Um, but then, the
Because it's about
McKinsey,
improvement. It's not necessarily about your total impact. It's about improving your impact. Is that why?
yeah, it was about, like, the sort of broad premise is like a confrontation with the impact that you're having in the world, and choosing where you want to focus to improve your impact, right? And that may be in sort of carbon production, it may be in sort of your impact in people's health, or how you're interacting with the communities that your business is operating out of, or the pay gaps, or sort of diversity gaps that exist within your company. It could be any of those things, but
Right.
it is trying to have an honest confrontation with your own stuff in a public forum, which is always messy, right?
Sure.
People, when you have a problem, you're trying to hide it, right? And so when we did our first one, it was on the back of when the Sattler McKinsey opium crisis, like opioid crisis stuff, had come out, and we were just like, how do all of these companies that are, professional services companies that are working with their clients, it seems like they get a pass on what impact they're having in whatever the company finally does. And while, of course, like, your end client has the ultimate accountability as a someone who works in professional services, like, you should bear some, like, if you give them the idea to do a thing that is bad for the world, you have some like responsibility and accountability. And we we didn't want to be like, we didn't want our work to have that kind of negative impact in the world. And I think there's like a Pollyanna-ish version of this, where you say like, we'll never work with these companies, or we'll
Yeah,
never
sure.
do this.
Binary,
Like,
yeah.
it doesn't feel realistic. Like, for us, it's been about like, I would rather be in the room with my values, like me, Joey, or like our team with their individual values, helping solve a problem with a company that needs to change, than having someone who doesn't bring that to the table. And I've always said, like, if you can get a big fish moving 2 degrees in the right direction over time, the amount of impact that that can have is huge, compared to like, if you can get a tiny company to do a 180 and it feels really good,
Mm.
but the impact on the world is not as significant. And so we like often navigate those things. But this year's impact report was sort of, you know, um, I don't know, we were feeling like really dejected, um, in the way that the world was talking about, or, the American world, whatever the bubble I exist in as a New Yorker or an American, um, was talking about like DEI and all of these things, and how it had become this sort of pejorative concept. And
Target.
yeah, this was like a thing that was always important to us, of like bringing together diverse teams, because it just makes work better, and allowing people to show up as themselves because they are happier, and that allows them to represent a diverse opinion in like trying to come up with a solution, and to allow for that like creative friction and heat. And so, we were like, in the wake of George Floyd's murder, and new language was emerging on how people were talking about it, we were like, oh, we're doing these things too. We believe in these things. Great. Like, companies are starting to take accountability for that. And you know, maybe some companies needed hand slaps or whatever because of truly like onerous behavior, but like our perspective was just like, great, you're doing a more positive thing. You're
It's about
distributing
progress.
opportunity. Yeah, it's progress. And all of a sudden, you spent 4 years being like, all right, we're making like positive progress in the right direction. It's like, just kidding. We're out. Like, we don't actually care about that anymore. And we were like,
Yeah.
I don't know. You feel that like whiplash of, um, hopelessness. But we sort of like, you take a moment and you're like, what is happening? Where are we at? And it just felt like everyone was being so quiet because of this fear of reprisal, fear of the hammer like coming
Sure. I mean,
down
Lisa
on
Murkowski,
someone.
from a Republican from Alaska, she said the other day in public, she's scared.
Yeah. Yeah. One of these CEOs close to Trump, like, called their CEO and had her fire someone based on like private social media responses, like things that they were saying in their private social media account. And it's like, someone we've worked with, someone I trust, like, said that. I'm just like, what in the world?
Well, they're
Like,
searching phones and, for people coming into the
yeah.
country, right?
And it just felt like, well, we're small, right? In the grand scheme of things, we are 70 people, but like, if people are afraid to say something, maybe if we just say like what we believe in and what isn't changing for us, maybe other people will feel empowered to say that. Like, I don't even know
Did
if
did
it's
Harvard
true.
did Harvard play a role in your decision with that, or is that
No, but we were like,
coincidence?
I was like, great, like Harvard
I
and,
mean, they're sitting
and
on 50 something
Princeton.
billion dollars. Also, that
Yeah,
helps. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, they're much larger, much more influence, much more sort of reach than certainly we have as a 15-year-old company. But like, we put it out the same week that, it took us time to write and develop it and do whatever. But I was like, oh, like, if they're doing it, maybe that is, um, like the right kind of momentum. Maybe they can do what we hoped. Like, your sort of like optimism that at least within our industry or other people we're seeing, or the clients that we have, the very senior clients that have more influence in those organizations certainly than we have, feel, um, I don't know, emboldened to say something, or to take those risks. Like, I've heard people over the past few months tell me things about like what they're trying to do in order to just like stand on that line and stand their ground. And some are like really passive things. Like, I talked to someone recently who was talking about an initiative that they had, that they're like, I'm worried someone's gonna say like, oh, this is a DEI marketing initiative, but you're like, it's just like a powerful marketing
Yeah.
initiative, and I'm just
Sure.
leaving it in the budget. And like someone said to me this week, like, oh, I'm worried we'll get in trouble, and she's like, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna leave that in. It's like a senior person. I've heard other people be like, okay, I run hiring at this company. I'm gonna keep using the same philosophy that was guiding me before any of this happened.
Sure.
Like it doesn't have to be an official corporate policy, but it is an official me policy. Um,
And it's
and
good for
we're kind of
business.
hoping people do that. Yeah.
It's good for business because there's all types of consumers out there. So as a brand selling things to people, you know, you need to try different things, you know, appeal to different audiences. I mean, this is one of the things I find so interesting about the culture conversation. And I think a lot of people are using that word. I don't want to say they're gaslighting with that word, but like there's like cultural relevance, and then there's like Happy Easter. Buy our marshmallows and paint them instead of eggs because egg prices are high. Like that's not cultural marketing, guys. But
Yeah.
I think the idea of using culture as a strategy to drive growth with new
Mm-hmm.
audiences that may not have considered or purchased your product in the past, I think is a really interesting space. And that relies on, you know, talking to all different types of people and bringing in all different types of team members to be able to have those conversations in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just going to read from some of the open letter of resistance from Sylvain. In a quiet so loud, a different approach to Sylvain's annual impact assessment in response to the chaos of now. What do you do when even the biggest fish are afraid? The world feels out of control right now, and it's not as if things have been steady these past few years. Chaos has become the status quo, volatility the baseline. Free speech is on everyone's lips, but even the powerful are scared to speak. Moral challenges, once met with resistance, now elicit a chilling silence. The line between ally and adversary has become so blurred, it may never be clear again. Markets are tanking, supply chains are fractured, DEI commitments and stakeholder values are besieged. That's a hard part to read. Whoever wrote this. And recession looms like a storm that never fully arrives, but never quite clears either. Did France just ask for the Statue of Liberty back? I love that line. And so, I mean, this is a beautiful piece. If you haven't read it, you should definitely check it out. It's impact.sylvain.co, and we'll put the link in the show notes. But I think for me, at least, you know, reading this, it really, it's a very powerful letter, and um, I think it's a really brave move to do this. So to give, to give some context to the environment that I saw this in, I think the post I saw before this was, and no shade because it's kind of a fun thing to do, but Mother, the agency, did a titty bar, a new kind of titty bar for, you know, new mothers, which is a fun idea, but like stands in stark contrast to the seriousness, I think, of what's happening in the country and sort
Mm-hmm.
of the courage it takes to sort of stand up against that.
I think about this a lot. The like we're not like a very serious group of people. Like it's like a very playful, silly company. Like we take our work really seriously and we work on important challenges for companies, but that's not our internal vibe. And I often worry that like in these moments where there's like a pretty serious thing to talk about, like people are like free speech is at risk. Um, I worry that
I would
then
say it's
we're
not.
going to
I
be
think
the
we've gone past at risk.
yeah is under direct attack. And I worry that like we will be seen
It's
as
not even free speech either. I mean,
gloomy.
people's phones are being searched
Yeah,
for private communications.
yeah. And I just worry that we will be seen as like gloomy or the bearers
Mm,
of bad news or that we're only.
yeah.
But it just feels so important. I did a talk at Web Summit in Lisbon on the main stage this past November, and it was, you know, it was like a really great talk. I enjoyed it. It was me and
Early
Uh,
November, late November. I need to know when in November this was
it was
because
after the
okay,
election.
you say November. It's like, well,
Uh, yeah, mid November.
yeah. How are you
It
feeling?
was
Yeah, okay, you weren't feeling
yeah,
that great. Sure.
it was me and Esh who runs consumer, like all consumer marketing for Meta. But right before us was Alexei Navalny's widow
Wow.
being interviewed by Ann Curry and the opposition leader of Venezuela talking about like the threats to democracy. And I was just like, what am I like?
What were
It
you
was this
talking about? You were
striking.
following
I
that?
was talking about marketing,
Oh
like
boy.
I thought we had like a important conversation as it relates to like marketing in this like bubble, but like, not to the
Sure.
gravity of, I just felt like
Sure.
foolish being up
Sure.
there talking about that in a moment where like I agreed with what they were saying about the importance of democracy and what type of society are we trying to build and live in, and to pretend that I have all the answers, like I don't have that kind of hubris at all. And so being small but trying to find ways to say like, hey, like, can we encourage people who have more power than us to leverage their power for like more effective means, like more productive means? Like maybe we can do that. And this is an attempt at it. Whether or not it 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 will work or not, like TBD. But
Well, it's already had an impact, and it may feel small, but I think it's an important thing to do. And what I say to a lot of, let's be honest, like privileged, middle-aged white men who've had a
mhm,
lot of fortune and luck and a pretty easy life is I'm glad it hasn't impacted you yet. But that
mhm,
doesn't mean it's not happening. And that
mhm,
doesn't mean it's not impacting other people. And that's why I think it's so important, and that's why I really admire what you've done here because it's a huge risk to do this. I mean, it's a
yeah,
risk even to like talk to me about it. Like
yeah,
I'm sort of like, is this going to impact me? Like I'm a citizen now, so I'm not as worried as I used to be. But if I wasn't a citizen, I probably wouldn't do this because,
yeah,
and I probably would have wiped my phone before I came back into the country 2 weeks ago because I mean, and that's been happening. There are Australians on work visas who have been denied entry. And that's, if you're denied entry, that impacts you the rest of your life. Every
yeah,
single time you probably will not be able to come back into the US.
yeah,
And it's really serious. There
yeah.
was a scientist from France who was denied entry because he had I don't know what the messages were, but private messages on his phone. He was denied entry from going to like I think it was South by. It might have been come to South by or something.
Mhm.
Don't quote me on that. I'm doing a bit of a Joe Rogan here and going rogue. I really like the way you finished it with your values here, and I'm just going to read through those. The things that you will never stop doing. Leveraging the might of corporations for the greatest good. Keeping our structure flat and our voices loud. Lifting up the voices of those historically marginalized. Saying the quiet parts out loud. Choosing kindness even when the world rewards cruelty. This is a very important one. Growing people even if they outgrow us. Holding the consulting industry to the highest standard. And this is the last one, I think, creating what the world doesn't see coming. Were these values something you created years ago, or have these evolved?
Yeah, they've, they're sort of like, I think we talk about some of them differently internally, and some like very organically, like things emerge. We have this phrase like hard on the work, kind to each other, where that, I think, that is sort of the origin of that kindness one, where it was a moment to crystallize the things that like, if we're not doing these things, like I don't want to be here. And I happen to have the sort of power to be able to make sure that we can do those things. But like, if I was one of the people on our team and me, Joey, was not keeping up with those things, I would dip. Like I don't want to work in a company that's not doing those things. That
It's
in
good
some
for
ways, like,
business. it's good
Yeah.
for business to be good to people.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, man, like we all have to work. Like, there, if you can go to your job and enjoy it and go home and feel like you had some power in the world. Like we felt sort
Yeah.
of strategically impotent before we started this company. Like you didn't actually, it was sort of just like dance. Like someone's telling you to dance, like make me my thing that I want, but I know
Yeah.
exactly what I want and whatever. And I don't want our team to feel that way. I don't want to feel that way. I think like it shouldn't be contained to just our company. And if we can share these things and like rising tides lift all ships. Like if some other company copies these things and does better job at the work, like then they should be doing better than we are. Like I firmly believe in like cooperation and non-zero sum wins. Um and like you're looking at some of the hypocrisy of the moment. It's frustrating. Like
Yeah.
I'm a DEI kid. I grew up poor. I got into a program that was like for like precocious poor kids, basically,
Hmm.
that like set me on a college path. Like they like told me like what college even
Precocious. Now,
existed.
tell me what you think they thought that word meant. Because I
Yeah,
have
I mean
little
that
kids
they
in school
didn't
now,
talk
and
about
it's
it that
like,
way. That is
okay,
my
oh,
crude
that's your okay, okay.
distillation of it. It was,
Because there's some super
high
weird
performing
language.
underprivileged youth is
Ah,
probably
okay,
how they
okay,
talked
okay,
about it,
okay. Right, right, right.
but it was like I like that program was like based on my family not having a lot of money. That's how I was able to get in. And it was like they had me taking like the SSATs when I was in like sixth grade and like learning like what does it look like to sit in a proctored exam. And all of the kids that were teaching us were just like late high school or college age kids teaching you about like books you've never heard of or like pushing you in math and like it was
You were like
I
a Doogie Howser?
no it was a program. It was called Summer Bridge. Now I think it's
Okay,
called Breakthrough Collective,
yeah.
and it
But
just
it's one of
happened to be
these
in Manchester,
government
New Hampshire.
programs
No,
to.
it's like a nonprofit.
Oh,
um
okay,
but I don't think my life would look the way it
sure.
does if I wasn't in that situation where someone like out of the goodness of their heart like created an opportunity for me to sort of be lifted up. Like
They
my
invested in the
upward
future
mobility is like,
generations. Yeah.
yeah, is a product of someone having the idea to like try and create more goodness in the world. And I'm talking about that not to be like I own I own like DEI in some way. I'm talking about it because we all like get these advantages. Like you hear people like fighting about, or like tech people talking about trans people and saying like, oh, their hormone replacement therapy is not okay. But meanwhile, they're like jacked out on tests and taking like
Ketamine.
HGH.
Yeah.
They're doing
Yeah.
gender affirming care the same as anyone else. They like their version. Like I don't know. Like we have to be able to like call that stuff out and not in judgment of those people. If they want to have gender affirming care,
Sure.
great. I support that, but like don't come down on someone else because it's not the version of things that you want. And I'm like I also recognize like I grew up in New Hampshire. Like the state motto is live free or die. Like it's
Mm.
like live and let live. Like let people like pursue things if they're not hurting anyone, and hopefully they're creating more good in the world. But like I don't know, I don't want to live in a place where everyone is scared to say what they have to say. And if we as a company have a little bit of insulation by working together as a team and being good at what we do to be able to say something in the world, like I want to say it. And if someone wants to know how we do it because so they can do it too, like great, then like let's put it out in the world. And it's not exactly a playbook, but the more the merrier.
It's a really hard time to be entering the workforce right now, particularly with the last month or two. Uh, what's your advice to juniors or college grads, or even people didn't go to college? Shocking that they might try to start a career. Um,
Yeah,
Looking to get into all the mini Joeys out there who want to do the same thing you did and start a company at 25 and
yeah.
go on to do great things.
This past year, I think we had like 1,500 internship applications, which is crazy. Like we did not have that many seats. And I think it's a product of, as much as I'd like to be like, oh, it's congratulations to us. Like I think it's a product of the times and the availability of opportunities, like you said.
Just real quick, what does your internship program look like? Is it like 5 kids, 10, like summer, or is
I
it?
think this year there's six, so two strategists, two designers, someone in our reputation team, and an engagement person. Um, and but 1,500 for six, so like that's more competitive than even I feel like comfortable making people
Are you
invest
promoting that, or is
energy
that
in.
just organic on LinkedIn?
I mean, we just promoted on like posted on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
a couple of like school job boards or whatever. But the reason I going through those applications, like it's so obvious the people that are using like the spray and pray strategy, like it and I in feast times, I think that can work, but in hard times, I think it's really transparent and and like when Ben and I came out of grad school, it was still the job we had before we started this. Like it was the bottom of the recession. We were selling ourselves as a team, like not don't just buy one of us, buy two of us, which I felt like in hindsight like is insane. Strategy teams don't exist, so you're
Yeah,
convincing
sure.
someone that a strategy team should happen.
Which one's the
Um,
strategist?
yeah, yeah. Uh, but we just like locked in on one place and just like rammed our head into the wall to get there. We made like the cringiest
And was that
things. Like we
Budweiser?
made a no. This was a place called Sarkisian Mason,
Oh, yeah, right,
which was
right,
like a
right.
digital agency. I mean, you were at Firstborn. I don't
Yeah,
know. I think they may have like the ship may have sunk by the time,
yeah.
but they had been like a
From that
hot
big hole
digital
you put in
shop.
the wall, ramming your head
Yeah,
to the
exactly.
side of the.
The Joey and Ben shaped hole that
Yeah,
was left in the wall on our way out. Um, but we like sent them like a stop motion thank you video. Like we were just
yeah,
like, we want to be here.
yeah.
Like, what do we have to do? We sort of did like really not free, but almost free work for them to show that we could do it and like proved ourselves out. And it was a hard time. That was like what, there were not a lot of jobs available and you had to compete for them. And I don't know that that's necessarily what it is, but I think what I saw, there's like one response to our internship application that like is just stuck in my head. There was like a simple, fun question of like, if you wanted to write an article for the progress report or like newsletter or like come on the podcast, like what's a thing that you would be interested in talking about? Like low
Nice,
stakes,
super
it's just
broad.
like
Yeah.
avoid bots. And someone wrote, I'm not answering this, take it or leave it. And I was like, leave it.
You should be going to the neuro lab and finding the kids who aren't
Yeah.
really excited about sawing a tiny brain in half with a vibrating circular saw, what sounds like a table saw, a tiny little table saw.
I think it's just like find a thing that you're excited
I
about
mean, also,
and
if you're
and
into
commit
that,
to
that's
it.
a bit psycho.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you know what I mean? If you're like, yeah,
yeah,
let's get another rat and run it through a
yeah. Let's
table
get a
saw.
vibratome. I went into neuroscience and I realized like, oh, I'm good at this, but this isn't what I want to do, and shifted to a different grad program. And then, and by the way, like all of my school was on, like I paid for my own school, so I was like,
Wow.
oh
Yeah.
man, I thought if I paid for this first one, I'd be good, but I had to go to grad school. But then, but like you're gonna iterate and shift. The arc of a career is long. Like your first job is not gonna be
Yeah.
your forever job, and but like show up, and if someone lets you down, like move to the next thing. But
Yeah.
like going in pre-defeated
Clear eyes,
is
full
you're
heart.
never gonna win. You're never gonna win that way.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like,
clear eyes, full heart, can't lose.
yeah. Yeah. I think that's good advice. Is there anything tactical, more tactical that you think you've seen work, for people who were interested in working with you guys or for you guys? Like, you know, I when people ask me, I say you just got to go and show up in person.
Yeah,
Because in a digital world, the person who shows up at the door every day for 2 weeks with donuts
yeah,
might get a job. If they're lucky, and you do that at 10 agencies, like I think your chances are pretty good. Certainly better than calls or emails. which tend to
Yeah.
just, go into the 1,500 applicants.
Yeah. I mean, I still believe in sort of like osmotic learning. Like I see it in our team. Like people are learning things from just being near each other. Like the
Osmotic learning, I've never heard that. You've taught me
this
something
is this is
today.
some, probably
That's a
maybe
good
some
one.
of like the science like
Yeah.
osmosis, right? Like learning from
Interesting.
osmosis
Yeah.
of just uh, observing and modeling things you
Creative
see or
collisions, right? I mean,
yeah.
osmotic learning is how I developed my career in an office. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Just by
Yeah.
learning off a bunch of smart people and what they did. How did they behave in meetings? What types of things did they say? How much did they push?
Yeah.
For their what they believed in.
Yeah, I think like just showing up in person, not it doesn't have to be every day. Like our team does not come in
Come and
every
see
day.
Joey every day.
Yeah,
Bring him.
like I
Were you
come in
like
every day because
donuts?
I like the rhythm and routine. But the other
You're
thing
on,
I would
you're in the
say
office
is
Monday to
like,
Friday.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Look up
yeah,
Sylvain. Look up the
yeah.
address.
I'm there. Not everyone else isn't here. I'm
Yeah, but you're pretty
Monday and
important
Friday.
there.
Yeah. I just like the rhythm of like my
Sure.
week and the separation of church and state. Home is for home, work is for work, you know.
Sure. I
Um,
feel that.
but the other thing I would say is like honestly, right. Like the biggest bang for your buck is your ability to think is going to be dramatically improved the more that you write. And there are experiments
AI
like
is getting so
creative,
good though. But you're talking about writing without AI. I
your
mean,
ability
Obama
to
used to write
think,
longhand, right?
yeah.
All
Yeah,
his
your
speeches he
ability
would do
to
longhand.
think is going to impact how well you can use AI. You being a partner to an AI model and that collaboration is going to be improved by your ability to think. And unfortunately or fortunately, like our ability to write is how we distill and clarify our thinking. And so you becoming a better thinker is going to make you there is still alpha to be gained in the collaboration with an AI model. It is that like Gary Kasparov centaur chess. Like it's two heads, AIs and humans always win in centaur chess. Like all AI or all humans don't win. It's that combination. And so you have to hold up your end of the bargain, ask the right questions, push in the right areas, use the things that you have like intuition and sort of creative leaps are things that at least today the models still don't have. And so writing like the most like bang for your buck, like random like creative projects, nothing about like the industry you want to go into or the category you're focused on. Like I did creative side projects in college that I know make me better at my job today, and they were so terrible, and I hope no one ever sees them. But like it made me better at thinking, writing like dumb things about like mustaches and napkins and like
Mm.
whatever, you know?
The journey can be messy
Yeah,
and it may
it's
not
always
feel
messy.
meaningful.
Yeah.
So tell me specifically when you say writing, because I think there's a real, you have ChatGPT sitting there and you know it can do like a 70% amazing job, and most people won't know the difference. But my fear, and I know I've heard others speak about this, is that, the seduction of the shortcut of AI
Mhm.
is so great that the number of reps you get into writing is just going to slowly sort of dwindle. And I think that's what I always found interesting about Obama writing speeches longhand and by hand, pen and paper,
Yeah.
which is pretty rare these days. I see a bunch of printouts in the background there. So I think, hopefully agencies still do things on paper despite the
Hmm.
threat to your B Corp status, maybe. But I think, what when you say like spend time writing, what does
Hmm.
that look like for you? Do you have a process for your creativity and your writing, or is that on a computer? Is it on a piece of paper? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, I've found that I always wind up having something like this without being intentional, and I don't know like where it comes from necessarily or if it's just become habit. But like in college, it was this creative project. We had a concept every week. It was random. People voted on it. Like 5,000 people a week were coming to this like blogger website that we had.
Nice.
Uh, but it was it was just something to write. And then after I got out of school, I started doing this like trying to write like what I was calling like microfiction every day, just like about nonsense. Like making stuff up, but I was trying to just like hone the edge of where like my fingers and language were like more closely connected to where my ideas were coming out. And so I was like writing about like pog competition, just like, 400 words, just like a made up scenario or like these other random things. Like, and then
Pogs.
I wrote
Do
up,
people even know what pogs are? Those
no,
they're
although
like
they're
little
coming
playing
back
cards, but they're
apparently.
round,
Yeah.
right? It's
Um,
just a little disc, a
yeah.
cardboard disc.
And you like slam it and flip it. I don't even know
Slam
what
it.
the game is. But then we
But you
wrote a
collected
book, and
pogs.
when I was in like fifth grade, I think was when they came out.
I
But
know
I wrote
you've
a
got a
book
shelf at home with all your pogs on it. It's okay. This is a pogs
in my
pog safe
collection of
space.
slammers. Yeah, no, and then we wrote a book. I did a documentary, like writing those
I
things.
did notice
Like
that. Yeah.
most recently, I did like a side project with my friends. Of like, I had this idea for a fictional story in my head, but I was like, I don't have time to maybe write all of this, like go through that process. So I wrote like I don't know, a couple thousand word backstory, and I took like D&D mechanics and made it like futuristic and sci-fi, and I just like wrote that story with them of like
I'm going
evolving
to
it
imagine
through
you were
playing the
smoking a
game.
cigarette, banging a typewriter, because that's the
Yes,
coolest version of that.
exactly. Yeah, like on an extended
Yes.
a cigarette extender, like Hunter S. Thompson. But it's just I think those things make me better at thinking and expression and the ability to sort of capture the sentiment of a moment or like talk to our team or it's
You've got to
hard.
practice
Yeah,
communication and
yeah.
communication of ideas, right? Over and over.
Mhm.
It's just reps.
Yeah, yeah. For sure. Like there's no way around reps. Like
Yeah.
if you're going to the gym and if
Well,
you're not doing reps, it doesn't work. If
yeah.
you're like doing anything, it takes time.
You strike me as someone with a pretty active mind and very creative. Is there anything you do to like channel that energy and that creativity?
I ride my bike year round commuting
Lycra?
to
How
work.
serious? What is your
No,
helmet
not
shape? Is it like a
no,
no? Okay.
no lycra. It is like
Yeah.
whatever my like work clothes that got too worn just transitioned into like
Oh,
so it's like riding in like jeans or chinos
sure.
like
What,
suit
down
it.
West Side
I
Highway
look
or something? I don't know where you guys are.
it's about 7 miles in from my apartment in the city. And now I bring my daughter. But like that movement is really helpful
Sure.
for me personally.
Yeah, you can't really be distracted by a phone on a bike, can you?
Yeah, it just like that. We listen to music in the morning when we're coming in, and it is just like getting out that sort of kinetic
Sure.
energy. Like
Physical
I have
movement.
ADHD.
Yeah.
It's really helpful, and it starts to like hone me. Like for me, that's uh, a really bit like I realize I become um, less plastic, like more rigid, even emotionally rigid. Like if I'm not
If you don't
doing
get
that
that
for a week.
physical movement, that
Hmm.
time to just like sort of zone and some people might call it flow, but yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm like constantly just exploring dumb ideas. Like I'm watching like physics videos on YouTube and like I'm still on Twitter and trying to like maintain the sort of
Hey,
curation of my account just so I'm like getting exposure to people talking about like economics and science and technology and people in different places so that
you follow the
uh
RGA Twitter?
yes, yeah.
So I had Chapin on the show last week.
Oh, nice.
He's the brain behind that one. That is I think my uh, actually it's quite annoying because my two top performing posts on LinkedIn are screenshots of RGA's Twitter with like a small comment from me.
Stolen valor, stolen
Yeah.
valor.
No, well, it was more like a complimentary, like share of that because they don't cross pollinate and it's just so good sometimes, especially
Yeah.
with the memes. But yeah, no, it's just a little bit frustrating because I pour hours into these other posts and like whatever. Um,
If only I
okay,
could be
yeah,
as good as Chapin.
yeah. japing. In 30 years, what would you like people to say about you?
Like, I would love to be remembered as being brilliant or
How about that presentation after
whatever.
Alexei Navalny's widow? That was a banger.
Yeah, he really crushed it after the Venezuelan opposition leader and Ann Curry, like Pulitzer Prize winning or like Peabody Award winning. No, I think I I just want to be seen as a good dude. I don't think I'm gonna be particularly remembered, but maybe some of the stuff I did will have
Yeah,
waves,
yeah.
like ripples. And if I get there and everyone's just like, yeah, that he was a good dude, like I would be happy.
I really appreciate you taking the time, Joey, and I appreciate the work you're doing to, try and lead us all in a better direction. Joey Camire, CEO, Sylvain, appreciate your time today, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Gully.